ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita second chapter, and yesterday we discussed from verse number 21. Veda vinasinam nityam yainam ajamabhyam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. So Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? That means you should not lament over the change of this material body. So Krishna is expressing his uh, wonder, astonishment that Arjuna, you appear to me like a very learned person. But tell me one thing. How can a person who knows, one who knows that the soul, what is the characteristics of soul? If somebody knows very well the spiritual characteristics of the soul, then how he can lament over the changes of this material body? Because when uh, till the time we are in this material world with this material body, so all the material things, including this material body itself, all the material relationships, material things, uh, everything is going to change, and everything is going to get destroyed over the period of time. Sometimes we will get some material asset, and sometimes we will lose some material asset. So a person who knows very well the difference between body and soul, and who knows the soul, that means myself, is indestructible, eternal, and immutable. So how can he lament over all these things? And how can he kill anyone or become the cause of anyone to kill? So in this way, Krishna explained this important sign. So Arjuna, you should not lament over this. You should perform your duty uh, of fighting in this battlefield without thinking over the result of this material bodies, because that is sure. uh, Jatasya Dhruvar, that will come in the upcoming verse. Jatasya Dhruvar Mrityu Dhruvam Janma Mritasya. One way second birth, he is sure to die. Means the body is sure to get destroyed. So, in order to execute one's responsibility, one should not bother about these changes, material changes. Now, next verse, verse number 22, which we are discussing today. Krishna is giving a uh, very important analogy, just to illustrate this point that we are different from this material body. So this material body is like outer covering over the soul. How this is like outer covering? Krishna is explaining in this particular verse. Vasam sijirnani yatha vihaya navani grahanati naro parani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. So Vasham is garments. Vashamsi means garments. Jirnani, old and worn out. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. This is the transmigration of science of transmigration of soul from one body to another body. Just like in day-to-day practical life, we see the cloth which we are wearing. After some time, it will become old and worn out, So what we will do? We will just give it up and take new garments. It's very simple. Nobody laments. Is there anyone who laments, oh, I have been wearing this shirt, this kurta for so many years. Oh, this has worn out. Now, how can I reject it? Uh, does anyone cries while rejecting the old and worn out clothes? No, nobody cries. Immediately we become very happy. Yes, yes. From today onwards, I will wear very new clothes. Similarly, for the soul, this body is like dress, cloth. So, and especially those who are in spiritual life, so they become very jubilant when the time of death comes near to them. They do not become worried about it because they know, because I have led my life in proper manner and following the principles of religion, properly executing all my scriptural duties. So as soon as I leave my body, so if I have perfected my life, then immediately I am going to get promoted to spiritual world. Or if not, if I have not perfected my this human this life, so at least I will get next better version of body, next nice body, so that I can continue my purpose of Krishna consciousness. So for a devotee, that's why there is no fear at all. There is no fear at all. Uh, One time, a devotee asked me, Prabhu, you need to take care of your body very nicely. Otherwise, how you will survive for longer period of time? So I said, uh, for taking care of my body, if I have to compromise with my services, with my duties, spiritual duties and sadhana, so what is the use? Then he said, Prabhu, but you will not be able to survive for longer time. Maybe you may have to leave your body 40, 45, 50 years. But if you properly take care of your body, nicely do your exercises, and then take all the diet, nice food, everything, take proper rest, then you may survive for 80 years. Then I said, what is the use? Suppose if I execute my spiritual duties very nicely, and if I exert all the time, if I give for devotional service, and even if I have to leave my body, suppose 40, 45, 50 years, what is the problem? Again, Krishna, if I have perfected my life, I will go back to home, back to Godhead, in the association of the Supreme Lord. With the spiritual body, I will be serving Him. A very nice body. And if not perfect, then immediately, as soon as I leave my body, immediately Krishna will give a very nice new body, new material body with all the facility to execute Krishna consciousness. So, what is the harm? That is a better option. Uh, If this material body, this particular body, uh, is used properly for the service of Krishna, then we should not be so much bothered about what will happen to me after certain age. There are some devotees, they become very anxious. We have to plan for the future. Yes, plan for your future, not for your body's. Plan for your future. Soul's future, we should plan more, not for body. Prabhuji, after 50 years, the body will become very old. So I have to plan from right now so that after 50 years, still I may work, I may continue to work. That's all right. We are not against that. Uh, I recommend all the devotees that you take care of your body. But simply taking care of the body will not help you, because after some period of time, after 30, 40, maximum 50, 60, 80 years, at most 100 years one can live, or maybe 100, 120 years. So, what is the use? Eventually, the body is going to get destroyed. That's why those who are really intelligent person, they take care of the material body as much as it is required, just to be able to execute their spiritual duties. That's all. Not more than that. And for that matter, 8 hours are sufficient. According to the calculation of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he suggested 8 hours are sufficient. Srila Prabhupada also writes in this verse, Yuktahara Viharasya. Yuktahara Viharasya. Prachestasya Dharmasu. Uh, Chapter 6, verse 17. Chapter 6, verse 17. Srila Prabhupada writes 6.17. The purport. वेदावेस उधर गया बी आयो EN लगाना पड़ेगा. They have updated this database service. That's BG 617 not found. G not found. Let us search by this. Sixth chapter, verse number 17. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. At the end, Srila Prabhupada writes that 6 hours of sleep is more than sufficient. 6 hours. So I would not even accept prasadam, not even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting on his beard 300,000 names. Namacharya Haridas Thakur followed this strict principle. Without completing 192 rounds, Haridas Thakur would not even drink even a single drop of water. He will not even sleep for a moment. But we cannot follow that much standard. But at least somewhere Srila Prabhupada writes, okay, anyway, maybe previous verse. So, nor can one who artificially abstains from eating. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting. He does not, and he is thus competent. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. Uh, Too much eating will increase one's duration of sleep also, because one who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. And one should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 hours is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Very strictly, 6 hours. The 6 hours are sufficient. Srila Prabhupada writes, 6 hours are sufficient for one to maintain his body perfectly, and 2 hours for eating and taking bath. 2 times eating prasadam and 2 times taking bath. 2 hours. That means 8 hours. Finish. 8 hours are more than sufficient for maintaining the body, and then rest of the 16 hours must be completely utilized for the service of Krishna. But for those, if somebody is a grahastha or somebody is not full-time devotee, then 8 hours concession is given. They can utilize it for their work, job, or studies, whatever it is. But at least 8 hours should be utilized for remembering Krishna in the service of Krishna. In this way, one can very nicely progress, advance in Krishna consciousness. Then he will not be trapped in Maya. Otherwise, there will be every chance of getting trapped in Maya. So this is very simple calculation. 8 hours for body, 8 hours for work, and 8 hours for Krishna. Chanting, reading, hearing, Mangalarti, and all those and services, preaching. This is the calculation. So one follows this, he can advance very smoothly. So in this word, Vasamsi Jinnani. So this body is like dress. So that's why a self-realized soul, a person who is sober, who knows that his body is like dress, so he takes care of the body, like we take care of dress by properly washing it. If required, we can press it, iron it. But if the dress is getting old and worn out, so we immediately, okay, no problem. Why should one lament? One can purchase new dress, no problem. Similarly, as long as we have this material body in working condition, we should utilize it for the purpose of making spiritual progress. And when it is useless and worn out, then one should simply uh, just uh, do as much as he can do, and after giving up the body, he will get a new body, better body, with which he can execute the purpose of Krishna consciousness. So, change of the body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. So, this verse clearly explains that the atomic individual soul changes the body. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body, which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This is very logical, very simple to understand. Even if somebody, even if material scientists, they cannot understand, they cannot explain the source of energy from the heart being the soul, the spirit soul. This is a great mystery, actually. Uh, this has already been explained in the verse previous 2.30. So this is a great mystery. When I was in ninth standard in biology, when we were studying biology, so there we got this calculation that this heart pumping takes so much of calorie, kilocalorie, whatever it is, and breathing takes so much kilocalorie, and similar different activities, how much energy is consumed, that was mentioned. And then a common man, whatever food he eats in a day, how much he gets energy from food, that is also mentioned. So then I calculated that this heart pumping for 24 hours, how much energy it takes. So I was surprised to know that if we just simply calculate the amount of energy taken by heart to pump, that is nearly approximately equal to the amount of energy which we get from eating food in a day. So I asked this question to my biology teacher, but he simply said, "ज्यादा दिमाग मत लगाओ, जो लिखा है ले कर लो, बोर्ड एग्जाम पास करना." I asked, he could not explain. But first time when I read this purport, this Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada, then I understood. Yeah, the energy which pumps the heart does not come from food grains. The energy is which pumps the heart is actually coming from the soul, because when the heart is pumping, the pumping of the heart is giving energy to all the organs of the body. But who is supplying energy to the heart so that it can pump? So that is the presence of the soul. Because of the presence of the soul, the heart is getting the energy. So soul is actually the source of energy from the heart. So this anybody can understand. And another point that uh, as uh, as we change our body from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and from youth to old age. So in this life also we have changed our bodies. Everyone is seeing this. So it's a very logical conclusion that at the time of death, that means after old age, one will accept another new body. Very simple. So so this proves that there is transmigration of soul from one body to another body. So transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. So how this arrangement is done? Transference of the soul from one body to another body. This is done by the grace of the super soul. The Supreme Lord is also present within the region of heart along with the individual soul. So the Supreme Lord, super soul, makes all arrangement by giving order to his maid servant, material nature, that you do like uh, arrange like this. So the super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. So, like acting like a friend to the individual atomic soul, the supreme soul, who is also present within the heart. But one thing should be clear. Sometimes in the scriptures, when it is said that within this body, super soul is also there. So some foolish people they think that आत्मा के अंदर परमात्मा भी. Within the soul there is no super soul. Both soul and super soul are two separate entities, individual entities, living entities, who are present. Both of them are present within this body. within the heart. But soul cannot be merged in super soul. So there is difference. These two entities are present. So one, just like so, super soul acting like a friend fulfills the desire of the atomic soul. Whatever the atomic soul, that means we, whatever we desire, the super soul gives intelligence, knowledge, and forgetfulness according to our karma. Super soul checks. He has our account book in his hand, and time to time he checks. He sees our face. Oh, he is desiring like this. Okay, let me check. Balance match. Okay, sanctions. He sanctions like this. He sanctions. Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. Updrishta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara. Updrishta Anumanta. Anumanta means super soul sanctions the desires of the atomic soul. That's why man proposes, God disposes. So we can only propose that we want this, we want this, we want this. But God has to decide. He has to make decision based on our desire as well as our karma. The Vedas, like the Mundak Upanishad as well as Shvetasvatar Upanishad, compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. Samane vrikshe. That is the words. I think it must come. Huh? Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno. अनीशया सोचति मुह्यमानः जुष्टं यदा पश्यत्यन्यमीशम् अस्य महिमानमिति वीतशोकः. Samane vriksha. This body has been compared to a vriksha or a tree. Purusho nimagno. Anishaya sochati muhyamana. This tree, within this tree, two birds are sitting. And one bird is sochati muhyamana because of being bewildered by the fruits of the tree, this body, material world. The living entity is bewildered because of being unable to see the presence of the super soul. But as soon as Justam yada pashyati anyamisham, as soon as the living bird, the small bird, turns his face towards the super soul and he can see pashyati, asya mahimanam, when it can know the greatness of that super soul, iti vita shoka, he becomes completely free from all the lamentation. That is the end of all anxiety at once. So one of the words, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of that tree, and the other bird, Krishna, who is present as super soul, is simply watching his friend. Wow, my dear friend, what nonsense are you doing? But friend is very busy eating the fruits. Wow. So of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. That's why उपदृष्टा अनुमंता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वर परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो. Lord Krishna says in 15th chapter. Sorry, 13th chapter. Right? So Updrishta means he oversees the activities of the the individual soul. Uh, and then according to the desire, Updrishta Anumanta, he sanctions from time to time. So he does not interfere with the free will. If the living entity, the individual soul, desires to eat bitter fruits, the super soul does not want that the living entity should eat the bitter fruit of this material world, but he just becomes a witness and he allows, okay, he's not desiring to uh, come in my association. He wants to enjoy this material world. Okay, okay, you try your best. But when you are done with all kinds of this nasty material enjoyment, then I'm available. I'm standing here, no problem. I'm always with you. Krishna is always present, but he's waiting. He's waiting for the living entity to turn his face from so-called enjoyment of this material world uh, to get associated with the Supreme Lord. So Krishna is witnessing bird and Arjuna is eating bird. Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is servant. So although there is this friendly relationship is there from the side of the Supreme Lord, he has said, Shuridam Sarvabhutanam, I am the supreme well-wishing friend of each and every living entity. But constitutionally, living entities are actually servant of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is master, he is maintainer, and living entities are servant and maintained. Krishna is the super soul, or Krishna Supreme Lord is predominator, living entities are predominated, subordinate. So this relationship is always there. So forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. So when the living entity who is so much enamored or bewildered by the so-called enjoyment of this temporary material world, so at that time the living entity forgets his original relationship with the Supreme Lord, and because of which she develops so many unlimited kinds of material desires to enjoy in this material world. And the Lord, being very merciful, she allows the living entity or fulfills his desire. Okay, okay, you go on with your this nonsense business. I'm waiting for you. So with this one body, one cannot enjoy to the fullest extent. So the Supreme Lord, very mercifully, He has given 84 lakhs of material bodies with which the living entity can enjoy to his its fullest extent. And after enjoying so much, so-called enjoyment, not actual enjoyment, actually suffering. So after suffering the so-called material enjoyment of this material world, when the living entity is completely done with this material lust, material enjoyment, then he finally regrets and decides that I should give up all this nonsense business of material existence and simply come and take shelter of my best friend's lotus feet, the Supreme Lord Krishna. At that time, the Supreme Lord becomes very active. Yeah, very nice. Good boy. Come on. Never mind. You have been cheating me from since time immemorial. But since you have come to the senses, I will accept it. Please. He extends his hands like this, like Lord Jagannath. He's extending his hands like this, inviting all of us. Come on, embrace me. But we are very fond of embracing Maya. Huh. Maya looks very beautiful to a conditioned soul. And Krishna, he looks black and white. Black. Jagannath is black. And Baldev is white. So when he looks towards Jagannath, Baldev, he thinks, oh, this is black and white. We want colorful, colorful. Maya is colorful. Huh. But actually, Maya is black and white. Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, his loving relationships, his embraces, these are all colorful and very blissful. So Krishna is waiting. So he's telling, okay, okay, come on. As soon as you come to the senses, I'm ever ready. But the living entity goes on with this business. So the Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntarily, surrender into Krishna for instruction, the subordinate body immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Mundak Upanishad and Svetaswata Upanishad confirm this. So, for many, many births, many, many billions and billions of births, the living entities are just trying very hard to enjoy this material world, uh, independent of the Supreme Lord. But as soon as the bird comes to this sense, the living entity comes to this to his true senses that Krishna is our original spiritual master, original friend, and he takes instruction from the Supreme Lord, then immediately it does not take much time. Then immediately he becomes free from all kinds of material existence, material miserable situation. This is the verse which explains the Samanya Vriksha Purusho Nimagno Anisaya Sochyamana Dustam Yada Pasyatyanyamisham Masya Mahimanam Iti Vita Shoka Iti Vita Shoka. Immediately then the living stays free from all kinds of lamentation. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend the Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna himself says, Nashta moha smritir labdha tat prasadan maya achyuta. My dear Achyuta, by your prasada, by your mercy, Nashta moha, all my bewilderment in this material world has been destroyed. Sthitasmi gata sandeha karishe vachanam tava. Now I am properly situated on my original constitutional spiritual platform and I am free from all doubts. Now, karishe vachanam tava. Now, whatever you will tell, I will do. That is hearing of Bhagavad Gita. One who has actually read, studied, or heard Bhagavad Gita, he must come to this conclusion. So Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Everyone has to leave their body one day, just a matter of time only. Today or tomorrow, or after day after tomorrow, after few months, few years, few decades. It's just a matter of time. But one who leaves his body by living his life in following the principles of dharma, in Krishna consciousness, then his life, his departure from this material world becomes very glorious and he is promoted to higher statuses of his spiritual life. That is what the Supreme Lord is instructing Arjuna in this particular. Okay, so thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. If you have any questions, you can ask. Hare Krishna. Okay, one question has come. What exactly is manifestation? So this material manifestation is actually it's a manifestation of Supreme Lord's external potential. Supreme Lord himself manifests as this material world in the form of his external energy, just to give the conditioned soul a chance to fulfill their material desires and at the same time prepare for uh, their welfare, real welfare, prepare for going back home, back to God. Okay, yes, Ankita Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, टाइम है क्या अभी?
Acha, less than. Okay, tomorrow you can ask.
ओके
Okay,
ओके, हरे कृष्ण बन।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna.